New Floral, and I'm going to talk about zinnias today, and then just see where things go on my zinnia conversation. So, one thing I thought I'd show you guys is this zinnia garland that I made. I'm going to dry this. I haven't tried how long it's going to dry. It's quite rainy and humid here right now in the Pacific Northwest in Canada. So I'm not sure how it's going to dry because humidity obviously affects things. But I'm thinking maybe like 2 weeks-ish. But I've got these little hooks here that I put. So I'm going to just put this in my garage where there's like some decent airflow and then see how long it dries. And I think this is going to look so cool when it dries. So maybe let's show you guys how I made this. So I've got this product, it's called Bind Wire. It's made by Oasis. It's green, it also comes in brown. So this container here is 673 feet. I like using this when I make wreaths. So it has a wire inside and then there's just this sort of rattan, like raffia stuff. You can see it's just like wrapped around the wire. And so it makes it a little bit nicer to work with, just rather than like the plain wire, because it's not like pokey and such. I don't know what gauge this is. It doesn't actually say, but it's super, super flexible. So it's a very, I always get this mixed up. High gauge means that it is less flexible. So I'd say this is maybe like a 28 gauge bind wire, and so that's what I use to put on my zinnia garland. Like you can see how flexible and malleable it is. You could do this just with plain rope, but then I think it would be a little bit tricky to actually like get it through the zinnia head, so that's why I like this bind wire. I'm sure you can find this on Amazon. Everything's available on Amazon these days, but this is like a super common florist product. Like Oasis is one of the like leading florist products. So any florist would have this that you could pick it up. So then I also have this giant hook. You don't hook needle. You don't need something obviously this big, but because this bind wire is a decent gauge, you need a fairly big needle to be able to thread it. So what I'm gonna do is this bind wire, I'm gonna kind of like pick how long I would want my zinnia garland to be. I don't have a ton of zinnias left here because I kind of already made my garland. So I'd say maybe I'm gonna make a garland kind of like this big. I have pruners here. This is a pretty thin malleable wire, so you could just use scissors and it would cut it through. But if you use scissors or actually pruners on wire too, it like dulls them after time. So it's a good idea just to have like a dedicated pair for this. That would be ideal, but I was feeling lazy, not organized, and don't want to go find my dedicated pair while you guys are alive. So anyways, I'm going to start with a hook on this. So I'm just going to twist it around, and so that way my zinnias don't fall off the end of here. Hello, Ross. Good morning. I'm showing you guys how to make this zinnia garland, which I'm going to dry after. So I've got the hook on the one end, and then I've got my zinnias. I already like kind of started on this, so I already cut these shorter. So this is like the tall zinnia. Zinnias have amazing stem length, and they come in different styles. So there's varieties, I guess is the word. So this one just has like a single layer of petals, but then there's some like this guy here. Please don't have family. What a weird thing to say. People are so weird on the internet. This one here has like multiple layers of ruffles, as does this one. And zinnias come in so many different colors. The common people think of like is this really bright like confetti colors. I mean, this one has a lot of those confetti colors, like kind of circus colors. And they are also though like a lot of like ombres and pinks and lots of different colors. So anyways, those are zinnias. So I've got my bind wire here, and I'm going to thread the needle through here. And I'm just going to turn it around and then just give it a little twist so it doesn't kind of fall off. And then for this to work, I want to have like just the flowers to be drying because the stems don't dry that great. So you see here, I've like chopped it quite close to the stem. So let's chop that here. I'm gonna cut these all first because I find it easier to have everything like prepped and ready to go, so I don't have to go like back and forth, back and forth. So I'm gonna do from the bottom is the easiest part. So there's a little bit of a hole now, you can see there. And so I'm gonna thread it in through the bottom, up through the top, and just like so. And then it stops at the bottom because I've got this loop down at the bottom, and then feeding them through. And so if you wanted to space them out, you could then like just do a little knot if you wanted, like this, and knot it sort of to keep the zinnias from being too close together, if that was something that was of interest to you. But I don't mind them just like going on and on and on. So see, like this one, that they just go on and on and on. So that's what I'm gonna just do with kind of these ones here. So I'm just gonna keep threading them through the bottom, just using my needle. I think this is a crochet needle. Does anybody know? I don't have a ton of zinnias left here for this garland because I already made my garland, but just thought I would, since I had some extra zinnias, show you guys how to make a zinnia garland. And then I'm gonna dry it for maybe 2 weeks, and then I might even put it on my like Christmas tree as kind of a bit of a unique decoration. I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do with this. So it's pretty quick to do this, you can see. So this is all the zinnias I had left. And then I'm going to like unhook it up here, and then I'll just tie another loop at the top, and then that way I have a way to like hook it somewhere, so that way it can like dry out. So you can see when I'm using like this bind wire, this is also what's really nice about the bind wire compared to using like twine, is it's really easy, just malleable. So now I can just hang this and then it can dry in my garage for, I think 2 weeks is probably a good time. So there you go, there's how to make a zinnia garland. So since I'm here and chatting anyways, how many here have heard about the wobble test when you're cutting zinnias? So I've got some long stemmed zinnias here. Zinnias have so many leaves on them. And so once you cut them, you would want to take all the leaves off the stem, because once you've cut a flower, it's like obviously in a state of like slow dying. And so you want your flowers to put as much of its energy that it can, its last dying moments, into keeping this bloom nice and pretty and lasting as long as it can. So you don't want it to waste its energy keeping the leaves pretty, because we don't care about the leaves. So that's why I always just chop off these leaves when I have fresh flowers, and I do that with every fresh flower. And zinnias just happen to have a ton of leaves on them. I use the pruners and just trim off the leaves, because if you just pull off the leaves, like just rip them off, it will actually like tear the stem a tiny bit, and that is an opportunity for bacteria to go into the stem, and then that will make the zinnias die earlier. So that's why I'm just using my pruners to cut all the leaves off of them. So that's a processing tip for you. Also, another processing tip is zinnias have a tendency to make the water really gunky, and just like you wouldn't want to drink gunky water, either do zinnias. And so every day I'm dumping out the water and putting fresh water in with them, and that way they're drinking like as healthy water as they can. And I also like to just recut the ends every couple of days, just to make sure that they got a nice clean end, so that way they can uptake water. And I'm using pruners, not scissors, because scissors actually like crush the stem a little bit, and you can imagine if you're drinking water through a straw that has like bite marks all over it, you can't get water as uptaked as well either. Hello, Aesthetic Fairy. Hi, thanks for joining. We're just talking about zinnias, which are these pretty flowers here. Oh, I was talking to you guys earlier about the colors of it. So this is a more like a muted tone. This is kind of like a soft peachy one compared to sort of the more candy floss, like circus colors like are in this garland here. So zinnias are great because they come in all those sorts of colors. They're not just the like circus colors, which whenever I thought of zinnias, I thought like, oh, they're too bright. They're like not my vibe, but they totally come in these like more muted pastel-y colors like this one. Today's your birthday. Wish you a happy birthday. Oh, happy birthday. spending the day on YouTube. That is so lovely. That's a great day. Hopefully you're enjoying your YouTube day, birthday. Okay, what else do I want to tell you? Oh, the wobble test. So zinnias have something unique about them when you're going to pick them, is that you want to make sure that the stems are fully mature, because if you cut them too early, the stem is not strong enough, and it will, once you put it in your bouquets, it will kind of flop over, and that's obviously not ideal. So when you see them in the field, you're going to grab them in a container of water, so that way I have something to stabilize them. So you're just gonna do what's called like the wobble test. I know, technical term. And when you wobble it, see this part like right here, which is called the neck, it stays like stable, like it's not like torquing itself back and forth. But look at this one. I cut this one early just to show you guys. So look at this, like the neck is just like whoo, whoo, like back and forth. Whoever wanted me to sing, there you go. That's as closest to singing as you get. So can I do these at the same time? Here, maybe if I go like this. No, that doesn't work. Can I go like this? Oh, there we go. There, a good demo of the wobble test. So see how this one on the left is very wobbly. This one's not mature. I cut it, I knew that these weren't mature, some of them, but I didn't spend it me because I was just cutting them super short to make them into this garland anyways. So I didn't really care that they were not mature. But if you're putting them in a bouquet, you obviously want them to be mature. So make sure you do the wobble test. Other things that I could say about zinnias: cut them with clean pruners. So bacteria is the #1 killer of flowers, and so dirt introduces bacteria. So these snips, you would want to make sure that you're cleaning before and after you're doing flower arranging with just an alcohol mix, or just alcohol, sorry, maybe not like your top shelf vodka, but maybe like rubbing alcohol, just to make sure that these snips are clean, because dirt into a wound is obviously going to introduce bacteria, and then your flowers aren't going to last as long. So there's a couple tricks and tips to making your flowers last longer. You don't need to do like bleach in the water or Sprite or a penny, like none of those fancy weird things. All you need is just fresh clean water and keep all the bacteria sources out. So it's making sure your vase is really clean before you stick your flowers in. That's making sure that you change the water every day, that you're cutting them with clean snips, that you don't have any wounds on the flower, so don't rip the leaves off them. So like this one here, I didn't fully get cleaned up. So maybe I can show you. Actually, I don't want to wound this one. I want this one to last. So I just give it a cut here to get these leaves off of it, because this flower is in like a slow state of death. And so we want the flower to concentrate on keeping the flower bloom nice and healthy, and not concentrating on keeping any life into these leaves. So that's why I'm just cutting them all off, and they're ugly anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But if I were to like actually like pull this leaf off, it would leave a tiny little wound in the stem, and then the bacteria can get in there through the water or what have you, and so that will make them die earlier too. So any questions, folks? Oh, wobble test. I bet you this one will fail the wobble test. Yeah, look at that. You can even just kind of tell, like, look how skinny that stem is compared to like this one, which is much more substantive. So I'll lean back and show you guys the wobble test. So this one on the left is like wobbling all over the place. It did not have a mature enough stem to cut, and so it's not going to last as long in a bouquet. It'll kind of like droop as the flower gets a little bit older. I didn't care because I was just using it in a garland, but there you go. I hope you guys liked learning about some zinnias today, and thank you all for watching. Have a great day.